Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Cheers podcast that isn't. I'm Mike. That's Dave. That's Tookie. We're here. We're talking about all things Cheers, the greatest live action sitcom in all of humanity's history. I feel like it wasn't the funniest week, but I really enjoyed this week's episode. It felt special. I think there was something really strong about. I mean, one, it was great to have Coach back for an episode. It was really lovely, even though he didn't have a ton to do, but it was really nice to have him there. Frasier's there. When Frasier's back, you totally understand how they looked at that and said, "Yeah, he needs to become a regular. Whatever happens between the two of them, this guy needs to keep hanging out in the bar." You were reminded why this show became a phenomenon because of Shelley Long and Ted Danson working together. Their chemistry is just nuts. Even when you're sitting there going, his behavior's not okay, or they don't belong together, you're like, my God, they're jumping off the screen. Their chemistry together, it's just crazy.
I've never seen two actors hug for that long and be able to hold, not only hold tension, but like it was undeniably like I couldn't turn away from the two of them hugging each other, and it's such a static position, and yet like it was riveting.
Yeah, it was great. It was great, the scene, and you know it's coming up between the two of them, and I can't wait. I couldn't wait for that scene to happen again. And you can tell that they, even though she was kind of done with the show and wanted to become a movie star, and I think they probably annoyed each other working wise, you could tell that they did know they had something special when they worked together. There are people where you hear the music of the other person and you know how to play it, you know how to pick up on their cues, and it's just great. And they're so good together. And as successful as the show was when Shelley Long left, there was never a pairing like that again. Never. It was so good. All right. So we are delving into episode 22 out of the 78 episodes of season 3. Episode 22, Cheerio Cheers. God, like I'm going through this season and they've got extra episodes in there and I'm not totally sure why. But they're there.
Extra?
Well, there's 26 episodes this season.
I didn't notice that.
Which is long even for a network. Yeah, I think it's either the only one with that many episodes or it's tied for it, because I know other seasons had like 23, 24.
That's the standard.
Yeah, 26 is a lot. And I think maybe part of it is, some two-parters that were presented as an hour possibly originally. But boy, if you look at modern shows, especially with streamings, where you go, oh man, there's 13 episodes in this one? That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just kind of understand how much TV people had to do when they were a part of a show.
Yeah.
My God.
It's pretty amazing how this season, especially like how much of this holds up and is still really like emblematic of like the best of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Still 40 years later, this season's really pretty exceptional.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And it was interesting to watch this one knowing that they were
Oh no. Live TV, folks, we glitched. Mike got swallowed by the Matrix. Yeah. You're gonna have to repeat yourself, Mikey.
Okay. Just watching it, knowing that it was filmed out of sequence, you wonder I found myself wondering if maybe they were appreciating it a little bit more, because she knew she was just going to be kind of perched behind the bar with a book for quite a few episodes, not doing a lot, which is what we've had the last couple of episodes, where Ted and Shelley haven't gotten to do quite as much just because of the practical issues of they had to film out of order because she had to go and have a baby. And then they were doing all this stuff. But yeah, for whatever reason, it was an excellent episode. So Cheerio Cheers. The A story is clearly that Diane is potentially leaving Cheers. Frasier has been offered a fellowship teaching at the University of Bologna, which leads to some terrible, wonderful Coach dad jokes. He's the only one who could pull it off. They're so dumb, and I love them each time. Perfect. delightful, fantastic.
From what I recall from the few later episodes that I had watched way back in the day, like years ago at this point, not even Woody can pull off this kind of daddish humor.
Nope. Because part of what sells it is Woody never really laughs at his own jokes.
Yeah.
Coach, like doing the big laugh after Oscar Mayer, sells a joke that should be so damn dumb. And it's fantastic. And I didn't catch until the second viewing where they're talking about bologna and he calls it a complicated meat.
Yes.
And perhaps that's why they named the university after it. Complicated meat. What a line.
Incredible. A line. Like, didn't get a huge laugh, but was in contention for my joke of the week. Just because what a spectacular phrase. I know it's a complicated meat, but.
Yes. Now, I think it's just that the audience didn't hear it that well. I didn't hear it that well the first time.
Now, what about bologna, however one pronounces it, would you say makes it a complex meat concoction? What about it do you suppose elevates one's charcuterie board?
I mean, is it just the processing? You know, the fact that it's been like rendered down to this kind of a slab of chunks with so many spices as to render it kind of unrecognizable. I mean, I thought it was a joke of irony. The idea that bologna is such a simple meat, but to Coach it's complex.
Perhaps.
Like he's never actually seen olive loaf. You know what I mean? Like that would blow his mind if he realized that existed. He's never seen a charcuterie board. Like this is just, there's turkey and there's bologna. And bologna, it looks like they've had to do more to it than turkey. Turkey, they just shaved it and cooked it. Bologna, it looks like there's some effort there. I think it was an irony about the overall simplicity and plainness of bologna, but to Coach, it's special.
Yeah, I once saw online, someone said charcuterie boards are glorified Lunchables. And I agree.
With no dessert.
No. Oof.
With no pudding.
Not a Capri Sun to be found.
Oof. Oh, I'm hurt.
So the B story is that Carla is losing her faith because she's depressed at her state in the world, and then she rejoices and believes it's a miracle that Diane is leaving. So that's the B-ish story. So Frasier comes in. Oh, I'm jumping the gun here. So that's the A and the B story. Dave, what was going on when season 3, episode 22 premiered?
Well, it's April 11th, 1985. And I wanted to give you guys, see if you guys could guess the top 5 grossing movies of April of 1985. I'll try to help you out. Okay. I'll go backwards. Number 5 ended up birthing a popular franchise featuring one of the biggest movie stars of the 80s, former stand-up.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were going to say The Terminator. Arnold is not. I mean, no disrespect, but Arnold Schwarzenegger is not funny.
85, launched a franchise. Former stand-up
went up to and has become one of the biggest celebrities, one of the biggest earners of the 80s and 90s, and still active.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop is
that was
5.
My guess. That yes. Okay.
Number 4 took in $14 million. It was an animated film from a toy line that has not that it kind of ended here. Like this was, it had its heyday. It was very popular, but it like never really made it out of the 80s.
Transformers?
No. Think a little younger, perhaps a little more sort of traditionally associated with girls.
The Care Bears?
The Care Bears movie is number 4.
What?
Almost, yeah.
Care Bears. I don't know. I feel like what, Grumpy Bear or Sleepy Bear? That's a it's kind of a masculine dude bear.
I associate it with girls because I went with my younger sister to see it. Number 3, kind of a Brat Pack movie. Takes place in a high school comedy. Breakfast Club, taking in almost 16 million. Over 21 million in April. This won, I believe, an Academy Award for its leading actress. Also a former musician. Well, still a musician, but has done very well acting. She's now in her 70s.
Moonstruck.
Yentl.
You're right with the star of Moonstruck, but not Moonstruck.
Mask.
The pizza place thing.
It's Mask.
Oh,
Eric
Mask.
Stoltz.
Gasp.
In quite a setup. And
I didn't realize that movie had done as well financially. Wow.
It was it did really, really well. The 80s was a wild time to go to the movies, man. I mean, you go down to the top 20, like you got Desperately Seeking Susan and Lady Hawk and
wow,
Amadeus. Like you could get whatever you need at the movies.
I loved Amadeus.
Amadeus is incredible.
That movie.
You can do whatever you like.
The number one movie, however, was a sequel. Probably not a classic, but part of a fairly massive franchise that will probably never be rebooted. Only one star of note, who's maybe one of the sort of like big comic stars of the 80s, has kind of done not so much of note since then. Worked with Ted Danson on Three Men and a Baby.
Gutenberg?
It is Gutenberg.
Police Academy.
Police Academy 2, the first assignment. Was the number one.
That threw me a little bit because Police Academy was earlier. Yeah, this is their first assignment. Howard Hessman, who we just lost.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
$36 million in April.
Wow.
Police Academy 2.
That's a big number.
I am on record as stating that Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, is the only valid sequel. But I'm not mad at Police Academy 2.
My daughter wanted to watch Sister Act 2, and she said, but I haven't seen the first one. And I was like, you're going to figure it out. Like, I think you can probably piece together the given circumstances.
Sister Act, I remember we went as a family to Sister Act, and it was one of my dad's favorite movies of all time. Absolutely roared in that theater. Loved Sister Act, and I never saw Sister Act 2.
You got to see Sister Act 2. A young Lauryn Hill makes her cinematic debut in it.
Really?
Yeah.
I will go check it out. I think it's on Disney.
Oh,
it is.
Even better.
Mm-hmm.
Even better.
I will check this out. All right. That was a fun cinematic recouping. Tookie, can you tell us about this week's cold open, please?
Another short and sweet one, which I appreciate. So we enter into the bar. Carla kind of, what's the word? Just huffs in because she's in a mood. Hi, everybody. And everybody's like, hi, Carla. And she says, listen, Sam, I'm sorry I'm late. I realize I left you here without a waitress. Diane is right there. She goes, oh, what am I, chopped liver? And Carla says, oh, no, some people actually enjoy chopped liver. And Sam asks, well, what's got you in such a bad mood? And Carla says, I don't know, everything. I realize I'm not married. I'm carrying my 6th kid. I'm broke. I live in squalor. I'm having a crisis of faith. And Coach says, oh, Carla, don't talk like that. And Carla says, well, what would a just God be putting me through this? To which Cliff replies, well, I know it looks bleak out there, but you just have to remember to have patience. Remember the story of Job. And Coach says, oh yeah, Cliffy's right. You got a good Job here. You're in great health. Carla says, well, I don't know, Coach. I don't know. And she walks off, and Coach turns to Cliff and says, I didn't want to embarrass you in front of Carla, but you pronounced the word job. Roll credits. Miss you, Coach.
Miss you, Coach.
Oh my gosh. One of the little tragedies of the end of Coach's run is we're going to lose that. Like, I really like the Ratzenberger Coach energy. Like the scenes between the two of them are so enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
They are. They're so good. So I already started breaking down the A and B story. Frasier comes in all excited about this massive achievement recognition. They all start guessing huge awards, which he did not actually get. just to make Frasier feel a little bit worse about himself. He has been chosen to be a visiting professor at the University of Bologna. And then gently mentions that they will have plenty of time to travel around the rest of Europe, which is how he asks her to come with him. Which it made me start to wonder, later on in the episode, Diane references these past months together. How long do we think in the world of Cheers she has been back? Because that made me stop and think. It feels like they've been together about a year. The season, the length of a thing, and two people who are serious about each other. If one of them is going to Europe to teach, I would almost think the default would be you're coming with me unless you're feeling like you really, you have work to do or you can't come to Europe with me. And the idea that, it's, you want me to come to Europe with you while you're a visiting professor for months? Like, yeah, of course. It was very interesting that was there. And I think that maybe Diane throws out these past few months later on to make it seem like perhaps it's a bit more rushed than it actually is. But then at the same time, he proposes while they are in Europe and they're going to get married. So they have to be together a little while, even in the 80s, they're not the impetuous types. So yeah, I'm curious if you have a read on how long you think this season has been in their world. Because it feels like spring, he's putting on a spring jacket. They don't have heavy coats. They've been through a winter.
Yeah, and that exterior shot is definitely kind of like springy, in the bumper. Like, I was thinking like, it must be like 5 or 6 months. Like, it seems like the memory of Sam's lapse seems much fresher in this episode. Like, it's definitely kind of on everybody's mind as they wait and see what the effects of Diane's leaving is going to be. It seems like
I wonder if
that's
months. In some way just a byproduct of the fact that they filmed this out of order, and I wonder how early they actually did this episode.
True. I mean, if anything, this pandemic has taught me it's half the Greek alphabet, and that time is fake. So, for me, my sense of timing is totally warped at this point, and for months on TV feels like 8 years. It feels like they've been together for a really long time, but also this is the 80s and also this is in TV terms. So long-term relationship in TV land could very well mean 6 to 8 weeks.
True. So Diane talks about, we have to get everything together. And she mentions Sam as part of the planning process for departing for Europe, which catches Frasier off guard. She's saying, well, you know how sensitive Sam is. They tell Sam, and he says, I'm happy for you. I want to throw you a bon voyage party. Frasier acts like, he's repressing, and I'm going to have to speak with him, and takes him into the office. And of course, Frasier actually just brings him in there because Frasier is upset that Diane didn't respond more enthusiastically to the news. And they have a fun moment between Sam and Frasier that reminds you why Frasier needs to be a part of Sam's life. Then Diane comes in. She reassures Frasier that while she was surprised by the news, she's very excited. And of course, we're going to Europe and it's going to be amazing. He leaves. She says, I hate you, Sam. And Sam has a beautiful moment where he's saying, really, I'm happy for you. And I just want you to be happy. And it's the first of their moments together that's really nice. And a great line that was in my running for joke of the week. So maybe I shouldn't say it in case one of you wants to take it, but just because we didn't travel well together doesn't mean that you guys shouldn't. She said, we never traveled together. Are you kidding? We went to hell and back, or we went through hell together. Well, it helped you knew the language. I really loved, I thought Through Hell Together was funny. It helped that you knew the language was just great. That's a great line. They announced that Diane is leaving and probably never coming back. And Carla considers it a miracle. She starts singing, I believe. They have their bon voyage party. Everyone says goodbye. Some very funny moments as they're saying goodbye to Diane. Really, really funny moments. And then the wonderful tour de force scene between Sam and Diane where they're saying goodbye to each other. They can't quite let go. Seems like they're going to say goodbye as friends. Diane drops her coat, turns over. They start going at it. They're going to go back to his place. She wants to get her purse. He mistakes it, thinking that she is going to start overthinking this wonderful moment, starts yelling. She says, no, I just wanted to get my purse. oh, I was afraid you were going to start saying that, where is this going? Is this the beginning of something? Is this the end? She says, well, now that you mention it, and they start having a heavy conversation. And instead of it becoming a fight, they actually have a moment where he acknowledges what he can do and what he can't do, but what he wants, which is, I want you, but I can't plan the way that Frasier does. And I think it's interesting that, his alcoholism is referenced a couple of times in this episode, where he says, with me, it's one day at a time. And that's how he's been living his life. And it made me think about the character of Sam a little bit differently, where it's like, look, part of his, he is an in the moment guy and doesn't plan and doesn't think about the bigger scope. And part of that is what helps keep him sober. And I don't know, which came first, the chicken or the egg, but yeah, I hadn't thought about Sam as a character in that way before, because his alcoholism is often not even referenced, but it is referenced here because they're afraid he might relapse, and that he sort of almost knows that's a danger, and he's focusing on today, one day at a time. That's what I'm doing. And they have a nice moment where it seems like they're going to be bitter, where she's, talks about how she almost made this moment of insanity, this huge mistake. And he says, hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to be sincere and tell you what I want and what I can offer. And she leaves and says, if you want that, call. And then cut to the next scene, the next day. The word boink is used again, which, God bless you, Carla. Did you give her a goodbye boink? They have a moment. Diane does call. They have a really great phone call between each other. Wherein it is, again, where Diane seems like she wants to not acknowledge what's happening. And Sam is the realist, saying, no, I can't pretend I'm just your friend. I feel this way about you, and you feel this way about me. And maybe there's nothing that we can do about it, but I'm done lying. And they just have this really nice moment with great lines, and end of the episode. End of a really, really great episode, I thought. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the acting in this episode was maybe the best that I've seen. In a series that's loaded with some really, really wonderful moments and characters, like the first half, especially between Sam and Diane and Frasier, the way they handle, the way they're all kind of listening and interacting and reading each other, and and picking up on the subtext of what each other is saying, and how clearly they're conveying it to the camera without mugging. It's really. I thought that first half was just like a tour de force of great sitcom acting. Even as they're keeping jokes afloat, there's so much happening off text as well. So I thought that was just thrilling to watch, and it was so great to come back to it. And then then it falls to Ted Danson and Shelley Long to kind of like up the stakes and keep moving forward in the second act, and they absolutely do it. And they kind of sacrifice the show once again, like sacrifices some of the gags to let us in on really important moments in the main characters' lives. And they absolutely nail it, I thought.
They do. They carry it, and there's still time for laughs during it. It's really, really well done. There's always time to find a joke inside of it too, and not a joke that it doesn't burst the emotion. It's a part of it. It's there.
This is a Sam Simon episode, if I recall correctly. And some of his previous turns in the writer's room have irked me. Though I will say this is one of the best written pieces he's submitted to the writer's room, in my opinion.
That last scene on the phone is really, for a scene about two people who can't. I mean, Sam is pretty good at he's already articulated kind of what he wants and what he's willing to do. So the energy of that last phone call becomes, what does Diane want? And the episode ends without her ever really saying or articulating it. And it's really cool how the script gives her plenty of space to not be able to do it. The fact that she can't quite get to where Sam is really, really interesting. And it's a cool place to be left on. And I think Shelley Long kind of just nails that thing of like, I want to tell you what I want, but I'm afraid to give up what I have.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting. They really make in this episode Sam a braver character.
Mm.
Yeah, it was nice to see him be so active.
Yeah. The acting in this one definitely brought me back to the bottle cap episode, if you guys remember. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. They were both great turns. They were really, really good.
Yeah, when Ted Danson gets quiet, like things get really, really good.
Yeah, Ted Danson he can do it all. He can do it all. As can Shelley Long. She really, she's pitch perfect in all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it in a funny way, like I do think she has a little bit of a harder sell because like she has to play not being able to do something, and she nails it. Like it's clear what's happening, and yet she doesn't have the language to sort of describe it.
Yeah, which is not something that her character is doing most of the time, where she doesn't know she can't give voice to what she's feeling, and he can. And yeah, he's the one putting himself out there in a way that she is not. Yeah, really, really, really good.
Yeah, it's I never even thought of Diane as a vulnerable character, in a sense. But it's like,
in a way, I agree. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your.
No. Go ahead. No, it's just like, it's just always, I wouldn't say jarring, but it's always a moment when Sam is being fully vulnerable rather than a complete creep.
Yeah. I think I might have put it wrongly because I do agree with you. I think of Diane as often being the braver one, simply in that she's the one who's put herself in a foreign environment. She's the one who will speak up for something that's very unpopular in the bar. She is someone who will say, she will be critical of people. Even when that's mean, you could call it brave. Where it's like, I'm willing to be disliked by some of you people to say the things that I believe in and things that I'm feeling. So in that sense, I find this to be an interesting take on Diane, and that I think Shelley Long pulls off really well because it also feels like very authentic in that I'm usually willing to say everything that I'm thinking and feeling, and now I can't. It's not even that I won't. I can't. I can't quite bring myself to acknowledge it. I have come close so many times this season to acknowledging how I still feel about Sam. And it's too scary. And it is scary. Like they talk about, she was committed. She had a nervous breakdown after they lost each other. What the devastation of losing each other did to each of them. And he's willing to take at least some chance on that, and she can't quite bring herself to.
Yeah, it's a good point because it's interesting, I guess, that Sam's alcoholism is a point of pathos, but Diane's her nervous breakdown is often referred to for laughs.
Yeah,
but they've both been through it, and yeah, she is carrying that with her. And it's easy to forget, I think, sometimes that she's been through as harrowing a situation as Sam has.
Yeah. Moment of trivia, because I didn't know the exact days, but I knew this is approximately true. Nick Colasanto died 2 days after this episode was filmed.
Oh.
So this is literally the third to last day of his life that we are seeing on camera right now. I knew it was very close. I didn't know the exact days. I wanted to look that up, and 2 days, and they shut down for 3 weeks as the cast and crew mourned and scripts were rewritten. Yeah. Yep. That's so hard. And to, you can see him a little tired and a little weak and still pulling off so many great moments. 2 days before he died from heart failure. And heart failure, it's like, it's not a heart attack where it can sneak up on you and you think everything's right up until it's over. Heart failure, he has been experiencing, that is tiredness, that is, a huge drain on the rest of your body. And to still be able to pull off the rest of this episode in the face of your own mortality, I'm just in awe of that. It's really incredible to see what he pulls off here. And all the time, this whole season.
Yeah,
pretty
the
great.
farewell with Diane. The farewell with Diane is such a beautiful, funny. Like it's like everything that's right about Coach. It's like it's all his whole DNA is on display in that scene where he says goodbye, because it's the funniest moment of the episode, and then also the even as after the goodbye is over, he's acting his way out the door, and there's like a little moment. It's fun. It was really interesting to watch where you can see Colasanto kind of like, there's a moment where he allows Coach a chance to kind of say, like, he just kind of shakes his head as if he's like, I wish I could say more, but I'm going to keep going out the door. And it's a beautiful moment that like the camera just catches of somebody who's just kind of deep in that character and able to, I guess maybe that's why he's able to pull off what he does, so late in his life, because he is so in it.
Ugh, it's just heartbreaking.
My joke of the week is in there. I was just picking which Coach moment was going to be my final Coach joke of the week, where he's talking about how he envisioned the future with him living at Sam and Diane's house and all the things and cooking fried chicken on Sunday night. And Sam saying, well, it's going to be Fraser's house now. And Coach saying, you can come by anytime, Sam. I loved it. It was so simple. It was great. And then but call first tag. just the button. So good.
That was my joke of the week too.
Yeah. Yep. I'll take another one if you want that one. Stand by him. And
my God.
Goes off to do it.
I lost my shit on Stand By Him.
Just the sincerity of gone. Yep. Doing it. Walking over there right now. Oh, I loved it.
It was such a Diane thing to say. Like, which camouflaged the joke perfectly.
Yeah. Just the drama of that statement in saying it in a way that Coach would never, so he has to take it literally. Mm-hmm. It's such great writing. It was such a great performance on both their parts. It was just great. Stand by him. Beautiful. Yep. Dave, what's your joke of the week?
Oh man, those are all so good. I mean, I got I think Stand By Him was absolutely my favorite, but you know what? I'm going to give it to Complicated Meat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal one from you. I thought you had said Complicated Meat was going to be your joke of the week.
I was up in the air, and I'm gonna stick with the Complicated Meat. The rare Coach joke that ends not with like an exclamation point, but like an ellipses. I know it's a complicated meat, but I don't know. The fact that there's a thought that is so obvious that even Coach doesn't need to finish it is a beautiful thing to me.
Yeah, very, very good. Dave, what's your 80s moment of the week?
Oh man, I struggled to find 80s moments this week because it felt like a pretty timeless episode to me.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of 80s to it.
The thing I kind of landed on was the way they chose to depict the phone call, specifically how when the screen accommodated Diane, it actually like kind of like did that sort of like wipe to bring her in. That to me felt very much of the 80s. Like you wouldn't see that today. That sort of like
she rolled in like Chris Collinsworth.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my 80s moment.
Was the editing on that to you kind of like how in the first, A New Hope, how that Star Wars won an Oscar for its editing because
very much
of the swipes, and it was like so innovative at the time.
Yeah. I did have one more. This was like a very I feel like I'm very much in like a Star Wars place because between last week's dream sequence having kind of Empire Strikes Back vibes and Ted Danson giving off some frankly pretty strong Harrison Ford vibes this week, and then the sideways wipe, like it's that you can see the Star Wars DNA in Cheers right now.
It's there. My 80s moment, some of my 80s moments are just when things that have been going on for a long time ended in the 80s, which is what I think this is. My 80s moment is on the count of 3, 1, 2, 2.5. That was a standard joke. Like they would play, like standard songs, it would just be that got reused forever and ever. And I feel like it ended sometime in the 80s where we were able to rewatch stuff enough that we said, all right, we can't do the 2.5 joke anymore. Now that we can rewatch things in our home on these movies and in syndication, we're done with 2.5. We need to start writing some new jokes for this. So that was my 80s moment of the week, 2.5. Tookie, your 80s moments.
Oh, only one, because I agree. This episode felt pretty timeless. Diane's big blue dress with the shoulder pads and the cinch waist and the pearl necklace and the brocade pattern, and just it just screamed dynasty. It just screamed designing women,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just the fact that it was even a 2-piece.
Yeah,
that was so weird.
Right? When that happened, as they were like leaving together, and you went, whoa, what happened to that dress?
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Tookie, how white was this week's episode?
Oh man, steep drop down from episodes past. I'm pretty sad about it.
Very white. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the cold open, we had a black man who was passing by Diane, another black man by the door behind Sam. In the first scene, there's scene 1 and scene 1A, if you will. There was a black couple sitting by Frasier, the woman wearing yellow. Like, I wanted to see the front of that yellow outfit with her hair in a bun. And then in scene 1A, was a black man far off in the distance in a salmony colored sweater by the stairs to Melville's. In scene 2, there was a black man sitting with his friend, presumably by the jukebox. And in scene 3, there was a black man at the top of the bar, an Asian man in a red striped scarf who passed behind Carla, and a black man and woman who passed behind Carla in just like a moment after the Asian man did. So 13 total people of color.
Okay.
Yeah.
Random thought that I had when I noticed her in the yellow outfit, because I totally agreed with you. And it made me realize that yellow is my favorite color in the world that I can't personally bring into my life in any way.
Really?
I don't feel like I can ever wear something yellow. I don't feel like I could pull it off. Like, I'll see yellow on a car sometimes, like a big old Cadillac or a sports car, and I'm like, wow, that pops. But I don't think I could ever own a yellow car. Like, I'll see a yellow house and I'll go, oh, that's so fresh. It's like springtime. But I don't think I could paint my house yellow. And so that's when I realized, like, yellow is my favorite color that can never be my color.
It's my favorite color,
Random
period,
thought,
actually. But I actually love the color yellow. It's my favorite color, period. But I think it's a mind over matter thing where people freak out about wearing yellow. You just have to do it. Just do it. Because no one is overthinking about the yellow
Hogan did
more
it for
than
50
you
years.
This is, we don't talk about him. I like my yellow on a Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Sorry.
I like a nice yellow accent.
He also did not wear much yellow. Like, Hogan kind of corrupted yellow. Like, no one else was really allowed to make that their color. We had the Killer Bees a little bit. Yeah, but for the most part, like, he was the only guy who got yellow because he was so identifiable with him. He occasionally wore different colors for a while in the 80s. You could see him in white sometimes. You could see him very rarely in some baby blue tights and boots. And then it was just exclusively yellow and red.
Until NWO Hogan.
Until NWO.
What a dark time.
For all of us.
I have to say, garbage human being, impressive how he pulled off that switch. Hollywood Hogan was an impressive switch. It worked. He was a great heel. You hated him. Like, he killed it. That was not an easy thing to do. He killed it.
No, Dave, what were you going to say about yellow?
Oh, I was just, I like a yellow as an accent. I like it, a little yellow pop. Like, I've got a Seattle Supersonics shooting jacket that I like to throw on because it's got the it's primarily that emerald green, but it's got that sweet kind of yellow accent color. And
Respect.
That's where I like to get my yellow from.
Respect.
Little
Yeah.
pop of yellow.
I'm not mad.
I get you. Sam, creepy quotient.
4.8 for me.
What made it a 4.8 for you?
Oh,
I mean, it's fairly low for Sam.
yeah, because Sam is never not going to creep. He's never not going to creep. I grade him on a curve, but
Understandable.
yeah, but
I think the only line, as I recalled, was just because you're a woman and I'm Sammy.
I didn't love that.
And even that felt to me like self-deprecating humor, where he knew he was being, he was making fun of himself there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it felt like a low Sam creepy quotient, except where he yelled when he thought she was going to say something. That was a little bit.
Yeah. What spiked it for me is the freak out he had about Diane possibly over analyzing the situation.
Yeah.
It very much gave me Stanley from Streetcar Named Desire kind of energy.
Yeah.
Stella,
Yeah, it was a great. I really like that moment from like a sort of like acting standpoint, because I was like, oh, I get it. Like it told me a lot about Sam, but it also reminded me that Sam is not necessarily the most admirable human being in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of his foibles were on display this week.
Mm-hmm.
They were, yeah. All of his personality, good and bad, was very much front and center and being owned by the writers and the character. Yeah. And even just him not being like having that freak out, costing him the moment that he wanted so much.
Yeah.
Like there was a price he had to pay for that, and good on the writers for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved the moment when so he yells, what? And she says, oh, I was just going to say I forgot my purse. And he says, oh, and turns.
Let me get that for you, sweetheart.
Yeah. And as he says that, you can see him gritting his teeth because he knows what he's done. And it's like, yep. Which like fits so beautifully with the moment earlier of like, when you think of me, try to, remember me as a decent person. Yeah. He's aware that he's capable of being, impulsive, shitty, reactive.
I mean, he
whatever.
says it. He said he was a bad guy to her a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's not subtext; it's text.
Yeah,
it's there. Yeah, and it's interesting that it also shows he's so upset about the idea that she's going to overthink this, but it's already in his head. It can't get to him that quickly if he's not the one worrying about it at that point. She's going with the moment and just grabbing her purse, and he's the one thinking about it enough that as soon as there's a pause in the action, he's thinking this is what it's going to be, because he's got the answer ready as soon as she says, what did you think I was going to say? I was thinking about all of this stuff. Yep, because he knows. That's what he's afraid of. This is everything he's afraid of, is thinking too much about the future.
Yep. Oh, what a well-crafted sequence. Like, I love this. Yeah. This is like a top 3 episode for me. I really love this episode.
Yeah. Really, I agree. It's really so well constructed. It's well done on the part of everyone. It looks good. Like Jim Burrows directed a real nice episode. It's really fun. Everyone's got fun moments. Like there's a little moment before it gets a tiny bit homophobic. That moment, one of the great jokes that I want to make sure we don't miss off, when she's like, I'm waiting for a kiss. And Cliff and Norm give each other a kiss. It's a very funny moment. I was more worried about the look on your face isn't the greatest end to it. But it was 1985, and that's just how those moments had to end. Like it almost came down as a note from the studio where you had to say, like, by the way, make sure one of them makes a gay joke so that no one thinks they're actually gay.
Again, I think that was a huge missed opportunity for Cliff's character.
It's there. Yeah, there's I don't know if you ever listen to the Rewatchables podcast. It's a podcast I enjoy a lot. And they did a Rewatchables about The Color of Money. Paul Newman, Tom Cruise from 1986, and how there was a note. There was kind of a love story that got tacked on for Eddie Felson, Paul Newman's character, just because they were afraid that people were going to look at the way Eddie was looking at Vince, Tom Cruise's character, and saying, "Oh, that feels a little gay." So they had to throw in a love story there for him. That totally does feel tacked onto the story. And it was just a reminder, and I thought about that a little bit this week, where it's like, I feel like whenever there's a moment of male affection, there's a note from the studio. It's not just someone in the writer's room. Someone from the studio says, make sure you throw in a gay joke there so that everybody knows, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about
like the edict from on high. Oof.
The lengths like Lethal Weapon goes to make sure we understand that Roger Murtaugh is the most happily married family man in the history of the LAPD. And only because of that can he express his affection for Riggs.
Yeah. And even before potentially dying, they can't actually say "I love you." They just go, "I know."
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then after he saves his life, like, "All right, man, get off of me." Yeah. Have we ever talked about Kate and Allie on this show?
No.
Oh, I loved Kate and Allie.
So Kate and Allie was there. They used to end each episode with them talking to each other and then going into their bedrooms. And that was an edict from CBS saying, hey, we need to end the episodes with them going into their own separate bedrooms so that no one thinks Kate and Allie are a couple.
Huh?
Yep. Yeah. It was very, very important to the upper-ups in the 80s that no one thought you were gay.
How long did it take for Lucy and Ricky to stop sleeping in separate twin beds? At some point.
Like you be straight, don't sleep in the same bed, but also don't be gay and make sure everybody knows that you're not gay. It really it's amazing
my God.
I forget sometimes how big a deal like Ellen coming out as part of a sitcom was. Like that was such a huge shift to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And of course it got canceled like within a year, but
yeah. I also do want to say on the record, it wasn't a great show.
No, it was a fine show.
Kate and Allie or Ellen?
Ellen.
Oh.
Kate and Allie was a very good show.
Okay.
Ellen was, I mean, and I think Ellen DeGeneres acknowledged that in different ways. It was like the puppy episode was great, and that was all. But they really just tried to say, the episode, the sitcom itself was just, we're going to try to do Seinfeld with Ellen DeGeneres. It was called These Friends of Mine when it first started, and it wasn't working because it was just, it's a comedian character with these quirky friends. And then they kept just trying to figure out what that show was. And then they had this this breakthrough moment of television, the puppy episode that was so great. And then after that, they just didn't quite know what to do.
Refresh me on the puppy episode, because I know it was a thing. I totally remember the TV Guide cover in like 1997.
It was the episode where Ellen comes out. Laura Dern is a woman that she's attracted to in it, and she finally comes out and says, "I'm gay," over the airport microphone.
That's the puppy intercom. Episode? It has nothing to do with dogs?
Puppy episode, so no one knew what it was. So that was its code name. That was the title of it, the puppy episode.
I'm like actually disappointed because I'm like, oh my God, dogs. Like I'm really, I couldn't care less about who she goes to bed with. Just show me the dogs.
Yeah.
Show me the dogs. I don't care. Yep. I'm part of the live your truth era of television. You're gay, great. What about the dog?
Show me the dogs.
More dogs, please.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we put this one to bed?
Contender for... I'm still assessing the list of episodes from this season, but I feel like this is a contender for the Mount Rushmore of this particular season. Like each season gets its Mount Rushmore in a sense.
It's definitely in my Mount Rushmore. It might be the top. Yeah, just a really, really well done episode of TV.
Yeah, it does such an amazing job of setting up, and ultimately kind of ushering out Diane, but like setting up how painful the dynamic is for these two people to be around each other and then forcing them to be around each other for another couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't want to, I want to call attention to the fact that Frasier was wearing a green suede jacket and tie. he looked amazing. I've never been so jealous
sharp.
of an outfit in my life on TV. That jacket was incredible.
I know it's pandemic, but it really makes you feel like we just stopped trying at some point. Clothing-wise. Everyone is always so put together. Like even the slobs are kind of put together nicely. Like everyone just going out to the bar. They're really, you know, they're putting the work in.
You know, every now and then they're in an episode, they smatter in a little bit of that Somerville tracksuit guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you coordinated. Good job.
What that actor Alan Cost, he was like it, what must he look like normally for the costume to be like, oh, only a tracksuit for you, sir?
Dave, how far away do you think we are from the tracksuit portion of our lives?
Oh boy. I think it's measured in months more than anything at this point.
Oh God, no.
Before Mike and I are like nursing a donkeys for 6 hours.
When do I send each of you a gold chain?
Right.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah. I mean, I got a birthday coming up.
Okay. Done. Steak knives for Christmas, gold chains for birthdays.
Oh yeah. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Anything to plug this week, kids?
Oh, that's a good question. I now that it's not a blizzard, I have a show at Brewery 44 in Carver, Mass. If you feel like going down to the Cape this Friday.
Nice. I enjoy the Carver. Yeah, it reminds me that my son is really now too old for Edaville Railroad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. We loved Edaville for years. Now he's just, yeah. Edaville is really maybe up to 7. You can still do the Christmas lights that they do there, but yeah, it's just not quite there anymore. Rides are a little too little for him.
Oh.
But
that's a bummer.
If there are any young parents out there, Edaville is the go-to spot for the very young for the amusement parks. It's a great place to spend a day. Outstanding.
100%.
Perfect size rides. Yep. Really great stuff. Really great at Christmas time. Good time.
Since it's in Carver, are there interactive cranberry bogs?
I know at Edaville you ride the train and you go around the bogs. There are bogs.
Okay.
I would not call them interactive.
Okay. All right. My bucket list on the boots and go cranberry picking at some point in my life.
Really?
I think that is an option at Patriot Place in Foxborough.
Is it?
I know there are cranberry bogs and you can like do a nature walk and through them. So yeah.
What have I been waiting for? Okay.
What indeed?
All right. See, you know, because
indeed
the Ocean Spray commercials when I was a kid, those sold me. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh,
maybe,
I remember.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah, they're standing out in the cranberry bog.
Yeah.
They really made me think that cran was going to be a much bigger part of my adulthood.
Me too. Me too.
My best friend in junior high and high school her family was the Very Fine family, so I wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to have Ocean Spray. Like my cranberry juice had to come via Very Fine or no place.
Gasp! The heir to the Very Fine throne.
Yeah.
I used to work in the cubicle next to this girl who was the heiress to the private stock malt liquor fortune.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What was she even doing at her job?
I don't know. It was a nonprofit. I can't say what my job entailed on the internet, at least. I used to do a bit about it. But it was not glamorous. But I'd like to think she's somewhere.
Nonprofits.
Yeah. But I'd like to think she's somewhere putting an inordinate amount of red pepper flakes on her pizza to stay thin.
Nice. Very nice. Everyone make sure, I don't know if Dave, you have any shows, but make sure you're going out and buying the album and you can have a Dave Rabinow concert in your car or living room anytime you want. Go to daverabineau.com
Yep, DaveRabinetto.com. You can now download it right from my website or pre-order a CD, which will be out later this month.
Have you, in protest, pulled your music from Spotify, or are you still supporting the anti-vax movement?
I've not pulled my music from Spotify because it only just got there yesterday. But I've pulled my personal subscription from Spotify and switched over to Tidal.
Nice.
Is Tidal good? I have to admit, this is probably even worse. I do all my music listening on Amazon Music.
Oh.
With Tidal, Prime, you get a free subscription to it, and like pretty much everything I listen to is there. Like Tidal, almost every Nat King Cole album is available.
Oh wow!
On Amazon.
Yeah, Tidal pays a little bit better. That's their thing.
Good.
That's important.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, Spotify. We'll put it on the page. Make sure.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'll put the Tidal link up.
Perfect. Nice. All right. For Dave, for Tookie, I am Mike. Go to Tidal, go to Carver. For me, you can just go to hell. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe. Bye.